The anti-Israel protests around the world that we've seen, we've seen a lot, but we've seen intensify obviously since the biggest massacre of Jews since the Holocaust on October 7th. The this movement has been revived in a sense, not just this particular movement, but generally the movement to get rid of the Jews that was very popular in Europe. But in many ways, we see things we have not seen in our lifetime, but we see many things that we have. One of the more obvious ones is that this is, in a sense, another, the latest thing, as they say. This is the latest protest movement, the latest thing that young people can go out and break shit and pretend, tell themselves some story like they're doing it for a cause. But so much more in the riots, the Free Palestine riots, and in the movement itself and how it presents itself, how it insists on the language it insists on using. So much of it we saw 5 years ago, exactly, with the Black Lives Matter riots following the death of George Floyd. Uh, During those riots, the Ayn Rand Center UK launched its daily show, The Daily Objective. This show, exactly on this date, 5 years ago, that episode was titled The Riots, episode one of The Daily Objective. Things have only gotten worse, as you can see, and today we are going to be talking about where we've come and what the many similarities are between the Black Lives Matter movement and the Free Palestine movement. What are they fighting for, and what kind of world would we live in if they win? Welcome to the Daily Objective. I'm Razi Ginsburg. I'm joined by Daniel Kraus. Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, again, when you go back to the sort of like a BLM riots, and now, you had some of the protests, and some of them broke into riots, where they just started vandalizing private property, started vandalizing sort of like random things, not basically just lashing out because they felt like something was off. And if you sort of like go back, we can go to some of the sort of like the chants, and I think some of the similarities between like the Free Palestine and BLM stuff. But there is also like a very important thing about it was never about like any sort of solutions. It was never about like actually figuring out the problems. It was simply people felt like something is not right and simply wanted to do something against it. And I have a good example for both of them. So yeah, it's never about any sort of like solutions. It's never about any sort of like progress. It's just there's something we dislike, and we, like you said, we just want to break shit. Which I think that's why this is sort of like there is always something happening, right? There's always like an issue that matters, be it environmentalism, be it BLM, be it now the pro-Palestinian crowd. It's always something, and they are always connected. It's always the same people. The same people who were in the pro-Palestinian crowd are the same people in the BLM. You have the Hamas chief saying that basically racism in America and racism against Palestinians is the exactly same thing. So yeah, it's that kind of connection which I think fundamentally are sort of connects at like anti-Western ideology. It's like anything that's anti-America, anything that's anti-Western is united by it's simply united.
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan, for the super chat. Jonathan says, congratulations on having a positive impact and encouraging more people to read Ayn Rand. Happy anniversary. Thank you. Yeah, especially in the past, since October 7th, this channel has reached more people, has reached new people who have read Ayn Rand. So if you think the world will be a better place if more people read Ayn Rand as we do. One of the ways to make that happen is to contribute, support our work financially, and of course, share our content. With George Floyd, there was and everything that followed, there was something that we see here as well, which is the conversation is positioned in such a way that you cannot, if any answer you give, you will be dismissed in some emotional, broad term. In that case, it would be racist. Uh, if you question certain things, for there's certain things that we know. For example, that George Floyd, besides the fact that he was a career criminal, he had heart issues, he had fentanyl in his blood. The mention of it is considered racist. The mention of it in the context of his death, which of course points to what we know about Black Lives Matter, the movement, which is they do not care uh, about Black lives. The number one target for them would not be the police, and certainly not defunding the police, if what they cared about is the lives of people, and specifically people who are black. They would, want to see what it is that causes murder rates in black communities to be as high as they are, and so on. Here, we also see that, and we saw that we discussed yesterday this despicable display by Pierce Morgan, and to him, when Natasha Hausdorff questioned the information that came solely from Hamas about that family of children that were killed, according to Hamas, which may have happened, but of course there's good reason to think why it may not have. And she said, look, there's conflicting reports. He dismissed it because to him, we said children. So once you respond to that, you are basically on the side of killing children. And of course, it's not what any of them think. It is what all of them say because they do not want to have an actual conversation. Now, what was really is very important to remember that this connection is not just we're saying look at how similar these things are. Black Lives Matter Chicago on October 8th, 2023 issued that sticker that said Free Palestine and had a picture or a cartoon of a paraglider. Paragliders, Hamas terrorists, some of them came in on paragliders to kill men, women, and children, to rape, to torture, to cause as much damage as possible to as many civilians as possible. And those lives, of course, were not only, they did matter to Black Lives Matter in the sense that they were happy that these people died in the worst possible way. But remember, the only thing that they love, possibly more than dead Jews, is, at least in the short run, dead Palestinians, because the way they use, that any opportunity to say, look at dead children in Gaza, is an opportunity to take the moral high ground, supposedly. And by the way, we have conceded the moral high ground to these people. But that is what we do. That is what they do because we give them that opportunity. And again, the same thing, the same exact thing happened with these people rioting in America, committing serious crimes and in many cases murder during those riots. And yeah, that is where we are. Uh, Torah Worldwide. This is my line, so I'm gonna say thank you, Bonnie, for the super chat, and Daniel. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, similarly to if we go to the case of George Floyd, right? There probably was some improper. I mean, the officer was sentenced, so there probably something was improper. And I don't think it's like crazy to say that there might still be sort of like some racism in America. But again, what is like your solution? What is the solution you're offering? So your solution to improper training or sort of maybe some systemic thing is less funding for police, is like less control of it, is like completely getting rid of it instead of like making sure it's they have better training, making sure this is like controlled for better. And it's similarly in, so again, it's like they sometimes especially people on the left can like see the problem and not ignore it, but they're so disconnected from reality that their solutions are insane. So similar to like if you look at Gaza, if you look at Palestinians, yeah, that's not a life worth living. That's not a sort of like a greatest place to thrive. But again, it's a complete. They just start with that and completely ignore anything else, or sort of just want to put simply see a problem, and for them just find whatever sort of like their ideological solution is. So yeah, it's yeah, Palestinians, none of their rights are really recognized in Gaza, but it's always on Israel. It's somehow it's sort of like Israel's fault that the Israeli occupation, and it's sort of similar. It's like you don't look at like the people themselves. Like similarly, when it comes to like BLM, there's no talk about sort of, is there maybe like a some culture in African American community that sort of is not ideal when it comes to sort of crime or any in that regard. No, 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 no. You cannot talk about it. It's all systemic. It's all just from the outside. It's nobody has free will besides sort of like politicians. And then similarly, it's like isn't there something about Palestinians that, again, not like racial or anything, isn't there something cultural about Palestinians that they simply do not want like a civilized society? They do not want like a rights respecting society. They simply do want to kill Jews. And what do you do with such a culture? And also, what does that say about you when you are so outwardly like supporting of that society towards sort of like wiping out the society that is actually proper, that is actually trying to be better.
Yeah, I do think you're too generous to certainly Black Lives Matter. Uh, of course, there is still racism in places in America, and the solution to that is not and here and elsewhere, the solution to that is not more racism, which was the Black Lives Matter solution, still is the Black Lives Matter solution. This is a movement that wants people judged not by the content of their character, but by the color of their skin. And this is what they've been open about all along. And of course, one of their issues is defund the police. So what you look at a situation like George Floyd, where let's take the official line and say, okay, this is police, acting beyond, way beyond what they should be doing when, when arresting somebody who should have been arrested. What you're saying is let's not even arrest people. Let's let them get away with it. That is not a movement against racism or a movement that says, okay, certain people in society because of their race are in a more difficult spot. How do we solve this? This is how do we perpetuate it in a sense. And again, it's no surprise that these people's when they talk about children in Gaza dying, their solution, this movement, which again I see over at least in the wider sense as the same movement, their solution is to support the people for because of whom children are dying. Yeah. So let's uh, okay. We have a clip, but before that, thank you, Roland, for the super chat. Roland says, "Happy birthday to the channel and thanks for all the great shows." Thank you. As Toro Worldwide points out, it's not the channel's birthday. The channel was around for a couple of years, but it is the Daily Objective's birthday. So yeah, that is today's show, and of course we can't just celebrate it, the two of us. So let's hear from somebody else who understood that BLM and the anti-Israel movement are one and the same. Yahya Sinwar.
هذه الفرصة واحنا بنعيش ذكرى القتل المجرم العنصري لجورج فلويد. جورج فلويد قتل في مثل هذه الأيام نتيجة منهجية عنصرية موجودة لدى أشخاص. اليوم هذه العنصرية التي قتل بها جورج فلويد يمارسها الاحتلال ضدنا وضد أهلنا، ضد أهلنا في القدس، ضد أهلنا في الشيخ جراح، ضد أهلنا في الضفة الغربية بحرق أطفالنا، وضد أهل قطاع غزة من خلال الحصار والقتل والتجويع. احنا يجب ان يضع العالم الحر وشباب العالم الحر كله حدا لهذه الجرائم.
That's amazing. He talks like any one of these protests or protesters or any of the intellectuals, the professors who from whom these ideas come. And remember, he is talking about racism, and he had a solution to racism in the case of Israel, which was to slaughter everybody they could on October 7th. that is the solution. And remember, the a very popular chant during the Black Lives Matter protests was no justice, no peace. Now, what they mean by justice, I don't think any of them actually know anybody in these protests, but we know um, that they don't mean, for example, in the legal sense, if you commit a crime, you pay for it because they wanted to defund the police. There was absolutely no peace wherever they were because, first of all, Antifa was always there. Black Lives Matter protests had people of all colors, but they also had Antifa who were typically white, rich kids who like smashing stuff and in order to feel important. And yeah, so in so many of these cases, everything that they say is a an excuse for the worst acts of violence one can imagine.
Yeah, and this whole I mean, this whole idea that the sort of like Israeli-Palestinian conflict is about racism is like ridiculous. That's when people talk about genocide. That's also ridiculous. Genocide doesn't stop at a border. Genocide doesn't stop that, you have Arabs that are being genocided, and suddenly because of a border, Arabs are no longer being genocided. No, if you if you are committing genocide, you're getting rid of all of them. Why would you like? Oh, maybe you're specifically picking the group you're actually at war with. So it's not actually, maybe there's something different at play here that should be sort of acknowledged. But again, it's, I mean, Sinwar must have like loved his job. It's like you can just say whatever, or not say whatever. You can just say these ridiculous things, and the West, like the Western, not only sort of like the Western sort of like media will pick up on it, and sort of like the what do you call it, like the protesting people, or people who sort of like care about these issues. But yeah, everybody like talks about it. Like this could have been like a university professor at Columbia, and I wouldn't be surprised if they said, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody actually made up this video and this wasn't Sinwar, this was actually just some like Columbia professor. It's like this is the exact same thing. And I mean, many of the Palestinians are like educated in Western universities, right? So this isn't that far from it. They get their ideas from themselves, and they get many ideas from ourselves, because we no longer sort of hold the ideas that made the Western nations as great as they are. So yeah, we are in that way, yeah. The sort of the so-called racism against the black people in America and the racism against Palestinians is the same thing, right? Because it's oppression. It's not about sort of like a proper understanding of justice, or like a proper understanding of of like equality. It's simply about, things are inequitable. Palestinians are not as rich as the Jews. Palestinians are not as prosperous as the Jews, so it's the Jews' fault. Black people in America are not as prosperous as everybody else. It's gotta be the white people's fault.
Yeah, and again, one of the terms redefined, by this movement in order to push really vile ideas is racism, because again, Black Lives Matter has been a racist movement through and through. I mean, this is all about race, and again, it certainly goes beyond actually caring where actual racism happens. It wasn't just George Floyd, by the way. They protested pretty much wherever a black person was killed by police, in many cases because this was a criminal that resisted arrest, or did something that had he not done it, he would not have been killed. And they didn't go protest every time a black gang member was killed by a black gang member. I don't think there was. I'd bet my bottom dollar there was not a single protest over that ever happening. And but of course, with racism, it's not a rational idea to begin with, and you can you can be racist, in favor of your race, supposedly, or against your race, and so of course many people of various skin colors were a part of that movement, as we see many people even more clearly in the actually much more clearly in the Free Palestine movement, that would without a shadow of a doubt not live in the world that they are trying to push for, because they would be murdered. Let's look at something that one of the clips that I remember from the Black Lives Matter protests that really showed. Actually, I don't know if you have this clip. I remember asking you for it, but oh yeah, so you do have it. Uh, yeah, let's see this clip, which really epitomizes the people I just described.
Looks like they're just finishing up the. Why are you? We're on your side! We're on your side! Holy shit! What? We're on your side! We're on your fucking side! What the fuck? What the fuck?
Yeah, I imagine Vivian Silver, right before she was murdered and burned to the point on October 7th, where she was unrecognizable and assumed taken hostage until about a month later. Her last words, I imagine, were something like, "I'm on your side." Yeah, we see, because this was nighttime and they had the lights on, we see in the reflection, these are some white guys shouting at Black Lives Matter rioters. First of all, doing thumbs up and filming, and then they get a rock through their window, and then they shout, "We're on your side," and they get another rock through their window. October 7th, in many ways, was an attack on the "we're on your side" people. They went for the kibbutzim. These were people who lived there because they thought, okay, we're living next to the people we want to live in peace with, once these evil right wingers are out of power, and we give the Palestinians this state, which is the only reason why they are engaged in resistance activities like shooting babies in the head, point blank. Yes, they did that long before October 7th, and killing Jews wherever they can. They're only doing that because we're not showing clearly enough that we're on their side. Yeah, that video, maybe that video should become as much a regular feature on this channel as the South Park "we're just reporting it" video, because it is something that we talk about it all the time, and I don't think well, I know some people certainly don't get it because they're still on their side. But yeah, this is if you're gays for Palestine, Jews for Palestine, people who think women are people too for Palestine, that's your future.
Yeah, and something important to remember for people who watch the sort of BLM riots, is the fact that at some point when the riots started getting crazy, nobody was waiting for any sort of like information, right? If people remember the Kenosha riots, that's when Kyle Rittenhouse had to defend himself, and in process killed some people. So that riot was started the day of a killing of Jacob Blake. Like 3 hours later, there was already like people on the streets before any information came out about anything. The police officers was completely wasn't even charged. Basically, because it was ruled that it was a sort of proper conduct. So it was people went to the streets, they didn't wait. And have we seen something recently when it comes to Israeli-Palestinian conflict, right? It's 500 people have been killed at the hospital. Don't even wait for numbers. Up to 40,000 children. Don't even wait for any not even wait for confirmation. Just somebody said it, so let's run with it. Oh, there were killings at the humanitarian aid site. It's the exact same thing. People don't really care about what's happening. People just want to go out. People want to break shit. People want to, yeah, basically sort of like do things for the cause and use any justification for it they can. Not even any justification. You go without the justification realistically, because that is not a justification. Just it's pretty much, oh, something happened or somebody said something that is enough for us to do so.
Yeah, yeah, and we've spoken about it on the channel in recent weeks, how the 14,000 babies dying, the 31 people killed in an incident where the fact is not it didn't happen at all. Not a single shot was fired, and zero evidence exists, suggesting otherwise. Is the South Park clip, ends with "We're just reporting it," but it's not "We're just reporting it." We're reporting it for a reason. We want a certain result. I mean, there is no reason to constantly repeat uh, what may or may not be a lie, but by people who have consistently lied about everything and also started a war by committing mass murder and are able to end the war at any second and refuse to do so. So the 14,000 babies story, the later semi-retractions, a day or two later, somewhere at the back of the website, uh, they're done, as a box ticking exercise. The important part was to put it out there. Nobody who wanted more things, more justification for why they hate Jews and attack Jews. Nobody was looking for whether or not there was going to be a retraction. There was just a story that fit the narrative that has been being told for 20 months, which is, of course, Israel starving 14,000 babies to death within the next 48 hours sounds exactly like what we've been hearing these last 20 months. Perfectly in line with what we know about these Jews. That is the point of the reporting. And the 14,000 babies story achieved its goal. There were no 14,000 babies dying, but there were two people killed for being Jewish. One of them was not, but that is why they were attacked. And of course, the subsequent reports led to subsequent terrorist attacks. There was a terrorist attack. There were attacks in London against Jews. Several. I believe there were a couple last week that we talked about. There was the attack in Colorado. So these news stories are achieving their goal. Thank you, PC, for the super chat. PC says Razi, BLM is immoral. Immoral is a too light a term. I would say they are absolutely evil, and they are a part of the reason for why the world is not as great as it should be, because yeah, they are absolutely a part of the problem. And thank you, PC, for another super chat. PC says, did you hear Professor Miller is being prosecuted? Who is Professor Miller?
Not sure either.
He says, cannot say that in super chat, LOL. David Miller. I don't know who that is. But I will look it up after the show that follows this show. The reality show is coming up in a couple of minutes. A massive survey broke down the extent to which different populations in different countries, 25 different countries, hate Israel. Yeah, it is not a nice read, but it is important to know and to try to understand. And if we have a chance, a fighting chance, then understanding the problem is required. PC says it's David Miller, a Jew hater. I will, and he says you need to do a show on him from Bristol. He was fired from Bristol for anti-Semitism. I will look him up and see if we can stomach doing a show about him. But look, we have, many more than 5 more years of shows. This has been, quite the journey up until now, and hopefully, when we celebrate the 10-year anniversary birthday of the Daily Objective, the title will be something like, you remember when there was this thing, Riots? I doubt it, but one can always hope. Thanks, Daniel. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you in a couple of minutes on The Reality Show.